What's going on, y'all? Starting another series of my Let's Talk About It. I was prompted by a question that a community member or a person that I value their opinion asked me recently after one of my patron presentations at Alief ISD school board meeting. Someone asked them, if Damon is so unhappy with Alief, why didn't he just leave? And instead of being upset about the question, I actually thought it was a very good question. My only concern about the question is, why didn't that person or those people or whomever it may be come and ask me personally? I've given out my phone number, I've given out my home address, I've given out my email address. I show up at everything. So again, my concern is as to why individuals didn't reach out to me and ask me that question. So I'm going to address that question. First of all, I love Alief. Alief as a community, Alief ISD as a whole, individually. I am proud of my community. I'm proud of the school district. I'm proud of the residents in our community. So me leaving is not an option. It's not a choice. I'm here because I choose to be here. I love to be here. And I'll give an example on why it's important for me not to leave. Anyone that's ever had a tooth pulled, right? The moment you pull one tooth out of someone's mouth, what happens to the rest of the teeth? They begin shifting and moving. They cause gaps. So it is important in my community, as in any other community, that when you have a pillar in the community, that you do not vacate your position. If I were to leave Alief behind and say I'm done with Alief ISD or Alief Community or whatever the situation may be, that would leave a gap in my community, a much needed, staple of the community. We don't need people leaving. We need people who are willing to stay and fight and watch over our community and watch over our kids and watch over our neighbors. So I'm not going anywhere, and it concerns me that me voicing my opinion or my concerns about injustices would prompt someone to believe that I should just leave, when it should be the exact opposite. If I go into Walmart, and you go into Walmart right now, you fill up your basket and you go grocery shopping, and you know the checker, let's say you bought $100 worth of food, but you get home, your receipt says you spent $100, but you got $50 worth of food. Would you not simply not go back to that Walmart anymore? Or would you go back and say, hey, you forgot to put something in my basket. Here's my receipt. It shows that you charged me for this. This is what I got, right? That's what any common person would do. Well, that's in essence what I'm doing with my fight in Alief ISD and the fight in my community. I'm saying, hey, these are my rights. These are the rights of my community. These are the things that you say that you're doing, but you're not putting that in my basket. So until you put this in my basket, I'm going to continue to come back and ask for what's on my receipt, what's on my Bill of Rights, what's on my constitutional rights. So that ideology concerns me, that we can make a rationale over here, but then we can't make the connection over here. And that's actually a part of knowledge. When you can take knowledge and disseminate it in another way that shows people that you completely got it. So if you would go to Walmart, get charged for something, and not go back and get what's on your receipt or what was left out of your basket, then you definitely would be the type of person that would leave Alief or leave your community because you're not happy with what's going on. That's not going to happen with me. I have an athletic mentality, and what that means is that I'm not discouraged by wins and losses. Anybody that's ever played a sport, anybody that's ever competed knows that you are going to lose. So losing doesn't discourage me. Going to a school board meeting or writing a grievance and not getting what I want, or filing a lawsuit and not getting what I want by no means discourages me. Because as an athlete, you know that just because you lose, sometimes the better team doesn't always win, right? Sometimes the better team takes a loss. Right? No matter how good you play, no matter how hard you play, sometimes circumstances may cause you to lose even though you were the better team. I'll give you an example. It may be poor officiating. It may be one of the other team members had the flu. It's a whole bunch of different dynamics to going into being a competitor in wins and losses. So me being an athlete my entire life, I'm not discouraged by going to put up a fight for my community and losing the battle but not losing the war. Um, as a competitor, I also understand the value of hard work, right? We wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We wake up and practice until whatever. We may practice 2 days in a week. We may practice an entire week just for 60 minutes worth of football, whatever sport that you play. So there's a lot of hard work that goes into that moment. There's a lot of hard work that goes into my 5 minutes of patron presentation that I present every school board meeting. That's the reason why I quote facts. That's the reason why I quote policies. That's the reason why I quote procedures. It's not what Damon Barone wants. It's what is written and is promised to my community. And just because I'm the only one there doesn't mean that I'm not fighting for everybody. It almost, I don't want to say humors me, but nobody ever wants to be in a fight until they're thrown into the fight. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and asked me for advice on things that I've been fighting for in the community only once they start going through some things. So we have to get to a point where we're not vilified for asking for our rights. We got to get to the point where we're not vilified for not settling for less than what is owed to us, what's promised to us. In any sport, in any time I've ever competed, whether the other team won, lost, whether they cheated, whether the refs played a part in their winning, my favorite part of the entire competition is at the end. When you put all that aside, it's over with. Whatever happened, it's done. And what do? You meet in the middle of the field, you shake hands, you say good game, and you go about your business. But in going about your business, you don't leave the fight. You go back and you practice, right? You prepare, you train harder to come back and win. And we call it kicking butt, right? It's the same thing in real life, At the end of the day, I can sit down and shake hands with someone who I feel is my opponent, who I feel has cheated, whom I feel has maybe not have deserved the one that they got. But you accept that win. But by accepting that win, you go back and you put in more work. You work harder. You work on not the things you did well, but the things that caused you to lose, right? That's the true spirit of a sportsman. On top of that, I have a thirst for knowledge. I want to know the how. I want to know the why. I want to know the what. I want to know the processes and the consistencies. I like to note the consistencies and the inconsistencies. There's a lot of, let's go back to the analogy of sports. Every sport that you play, you go back and you do what? You watch game film. You study your opponents. You watch your game film. You watch your plays. You break down each play. You may break down special teams. You may break down offense. You may break down defense. You may even break down the coaching and the situation. You study the clock management. There's a whole bunch of things that goes into athletics. And the same thing goes into advocating for people's rights or your rights or communities. I study film. I study documents. I study communications. I spend more time studying than I actually do communicating because it's important to me to get things right. It's important to me to fully understand the things that I am attempting to fight for, communicate for, because I don't want it to be the things that I don't want to be driven by my passion. I want to be driven by, how can I say it? What's actually written, what's supposed to be there. I use my passion as a tool to get what's already supposed to be promised to us. Not liking, let's go back to the original question that if I don't like it in Alief, why don't I just leave? It's important to understand that not liking a team's play call or play calling is not the same as saying I don't like that team or I don't like those players or I don't like that coach. That just means that the play call is horrible. And if they were calling better plays, they would be better successful, or they would how can I say, solidify my camaraderie for the team. I love Alief. I love Alief ISD. I love the Alief School Board. But however, they are making bad calls, right? They are calling plays. They are doing things that are unscrupulous. If they're doing the right thing, if they're doing the things that are in policies and procedures, my issues are moot. That means that there is no issue. My issue or my concerns is that you are saying one thing and doing another, right? On my receipt, on my Alief ISD receipt, it says that I spent $100 worth of community value in Alief, but I'm only getting $25 worth of community value out of my school district, out of my school board. That's where my concern is. In that the school board as a whole or individually don't fully understand, or maybe they do, but they're not letting the community know. They don't fully understand the implications of their actions, the implications of their vote or lack of voting. Everything comes with consequences. And when you're on a school board and you don't fully understand the impact that you have on the community, that concerns me, because it's not a stepping stool. It's not a popularity contest. It's not something that you do to build your resume. These are affecting your vote or lack of vote is affecting people's lives. It's affecting businesses. It's affecting people's education. It's affecting people's livelihoods. So yes, I take that serious. Another thing that kind of makes me laugh is, why is it always okay when somebody else fights on our behalf? And I always, whenever I say that comment to myself, I always think about the commercial of Jim Adler, the Hammer's Hammer, right? Here it is, this gentleman is always claiming to be big and tough, and he'll fight hard for you. If been in a wreck, fight for your check. Those individuals, or when other individuals are advocating on our behalf, they're glorified. But when we have that same vigor, when we're fighting for our own check, or when we want to be our own hammer and advocate for ourselves, then we're vilified. I don't quite understand that. I don't quite understand what's so how can I say it, wrong with individuals being knowledgeable and in a position to fight for themselves. And when I say fight, I'm not talking about physically fighting. I'm talking about advocating. I'm talking about fighting for your rights. I'm talking about advocating for others. I'm talking about standing your ground. So it just baffles me on how I can be vilified for fighting for my community, for standing for what's right. Because at the end of the day, I actually have more, how can I say it? Let me just put it to you like this. The people who make the biggest decisions or influence the biggest decision in my community don't live in my community. So I have to live, breathe, and die amongst the decisions of individuals who don't live in my community. And so that should cause me or anybody else that lives in Alief or loves Alief to fight even harder. I'm not going anywhere. The decisions that you make affect my children, affect my family, I'm not the only family member in my family that lives in Alief. So yes, I am very vetted in fighting for community involvement, staying involved. My concern is that the only time that it's okay to be a community member or okay to be an involved community member is around election times, when somebody wants your vote or when they want your census information. Now it's such a big hustle and bustle for community involvement, but immediately after the census is taken, immediately after someone gets your vote, then my community involvement or our community involvement is no longer valued. It's no longer held up. It's no longer pursued. It's no longer glorified as it should. It becomes an inconvenience. It becomes a problem. Everything in society that is now revered, idolized, worshipped, celebrated, it came or it happened and it was once questioned, or it was once thought to be impossible. I say that to say that even though my ongoing fight for equality and fight for community in Alief may not be understood, it may not be backed the way that I feel that it should be. I may not have the full understanding of everybody else. I'm okay with that, because it takes a lot of courage to lead from the front. It takes actually more courage to lead from the front than it does to sit in the back and watch what happens and then decide whether I want to join in the fight or not. So I'll close with this. When Peter was on the boat, right, and he was talking to God, or God was speaking with him, he asked God for a sign, and Jesus told him, come, right? And so Peter stepped off the boat, he was walking, and Jesus told him to keep his eyes on him. And the moment he took his eyes off of God, he was distracted by the wind. The winds distracted him, and he looked down at the water, and then he began to sink, and then he cried out to God. There's a very important part of that message that is missed. The winds were blowing way before Peter even decided to get off the boat. The winds were blowing prior to Peter trusting that it was God, hearing his voice, and taking that leap of faith to get off of the boat. So I say that to say, Peter became fearful of something that already existed prior to him deciding that he was going to trust God. We get distracted in the fight by circumstances that were already there. And what I mean by that is, prior to me being an advocate for Alief Community, Alief parents, etc., I had already been lied on before, went through a horrible divorce and custody battle, so I had already been lied on. I had already had a hit put out on my life. I had already had attempts to have my son taken away from me. I say that to say that nothing that Alief ISD can say, or Alief employees or community members can ask, or anything, there's nothing that you can do, say, or ask me that I haven't already been through before, outside of my concern for Alief. So the wins were already there before the wins already begin in Alief. So that win is not going to distract me from my community involvement. Being lied on by administrators or employees or the superintendent or school board members, that's not going to deter me. Having my emails blocked, that's not going to deter me. I've already been down that route. Again, I'm a competitor. So I'm not discouraged by losses. I'm not discouraged by cheating. I'm not discouraged by bad calls from the referees. Nor am I distracted by the wins that were already there. My passion, my faith, my conviction is strong. So the whole reason or purpose for me having this session was to say, one, that was a very good question that was posed. Why didn't Damon just leave? You can talk to me directly. Very good question. There's no such thing as a dumb question or a stupid question. So I was actually intrigued by the question again because I like knowledge. And the second thing was that if anybody ever has a question about why I do things, or question my love for the district, or question my love for my community, or for the city for that matter, call me, text me, email me, pick up the phone, comment on my videos. I'm not hiding. I'm not running from anyone. I'm pretty transparent and easy to find. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to have this session of Let's Talk About It. And I guess really what I really wanted people to know is that I'm not an angry community member. There's a lot of rationale and a lot of thought and a lot of passion that goes into everything that I do and will do. I do a lot of studying. I do a lot of listening. I do a lot of reading. Not because I'm angry, but because when I speak, I want to speak the truth. When I do things, I want to do it right. There should be some appreciation for my zeal, for my willingness to fight and continue to show up day after day, week after week, month after month. That in itself deserve some appreciation. And I'm not doing it to win. I'm doing it for change. So thank you for those who are active in the community. Thank you for those who support my activism in the community, and not just in Alief, but in Houston and Texas, and hopefully one day worldwide or nationwide. But thank you. So let's talk about it part 2. Y'all have a nice day.